With us today on Real Wealth TV is a person I'm truly fascinated with. He has over 30 years experience in planning, urban design, and architecture, both in the private and public sector. He's currently the president of his own firm, Behar Planning and Design Inc. I'm very excited to welcome Moiz Behar. Moiz, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Roberto.
Moiz, I'm looking at your curriculum vitae and it is very impressive. Would you be kind enough to share with our viewers your journey on how you became an architect, an urban designer, and a planner?
Roberto, I am a graduate of the University of Waterloo School of Architecture, and I have been practicing architecture, urban design, and planning for over 30 years. And it was an important decision early in my career to understand architecture, to be an architect, build buildings, design buildings, before getting into planning. Obviously, planning is an important contributor to the creation of urban environments, neighborhoods, and communities. As importantly, architecture is a big player in that sphere. The idea that at the end product, as an end product, what you have is planning that leads to buildings and open spaces, I felt was very important to understand and work as both. And I believe through my career that has served me well to be able to contribute to many municipal policy activities, design review activities, as well as to private development as a consultant to provide that continuum of service of being able to provide planning, urban design, and at this stage, kind of a conceptual architectural advice.
Thanks. And how long has your firm, Behar Planning and Design, been in existence?
My firm, I established it in the end of 1998. I used to be a municipal planner, urban designer. My latest title was Director of Urban Design in the city of North York, which is now a component municipality of Toronto. And at the end of 1998, after the amalgamation, I formed my own company, Behar Planning and Design Inc. And I have been practicing as a consultant to the development industry, as well as other municipalities. Part of my portfolio of work, of course, is development and redevelopment of sites, assisting development proponents, but I also provide consulting services to municipalities. I also conduct design review for municipalities as a peer reviewer. So I have a wide-ranging practice which basically capitalizes on my experience both as a municipal planner and urban designer and architect and as a private consultant, understanding the development realm and what makes it feasible and how does it work. So the continuum of the two, I believe, provides a significant amount of benefits to a lot of our clients.
Two words come to mind: uniquely qualified, Moiz.
Thank you.
You have a broad range of expertise. Our goal for this interview actually is to educate our viewers on real estate developments from inception to conception to completion.
Right.
Could you tell us the whole process?
I'll try to shorten it. It's an involved process, and in today's planning environment in Ontario, specifically in the Greater Toronto area, we are seeing a significant amount of levels of policy and review that adds a certain amount of length to the time period. But suffice it to say that from the beginning, what we do as planners, we provide, for example, using a development proponent example, we provide an analysis of the existing planning parameters. What is in effect as standards and policies for a given piece of property? We then review those policies and provide a due diligence process, which may include a development concept, which would then work with the existing policy framework or may propose some changes to that policy framework. So as planners and urban designers, we are able to then help our clients form the concept of what should go or what could go there. Alternatively, in some instances, our clients come to us and say, I have a piece of property, I want to develop it, let's say, for a mid-rise mixed-use development. So we then look at what does it mean to then apply this idea for development within the existing policy framework. And as I said, if there are changes, what kind of changes to that policy? We then work with our clients to make sure that that concept is at a point where it could be taken to a municipality at earlier stages as a pre-consultation meeting. So we would test that to see what municipal reaction will be to what we are proposing, given our knowledge of the existing policy framework. After that, we may also go and talk to the local councillor. Very important, the political process, because at the end of the day, staff in a municipal environment recommend approval. The final approval comes from a municipal council. So working with the municipal councillors and in some instances the mayor in a municipality are very, very important. So knowing that is part of the process, we ensure that from very early on we open those channels of communication with staff and with the community and really the political representatives which are really representing that community. So after that, the matter is taken into an area where we start looking at what changes are required, if any, to the official plan, to the zoning bylaw, and then go for site plan approval. So to achieve that level of resolution to a development plan, we need to pull together a project team. And a project team then is made of course, the planners and urban designers like ourselves, a project architect. We make sure that we have the civil engineering input, landscape, transportation, which is very important in today's environment where there is a significant amount of concern about our roads' capabilities throughout the GTA, for example, to handle the increased amount of traffic. So we make sure that the project team is formed and that project team seamlessly works together. I'm a firm believer, again, going back to my years as a municipal planner, to get a set of plans and drawings and documents that are very well coordinated. It's very important to inspire that confidence and in the proposal that this is well thought out and coordinated when it's presented to the community, to the municipal councillor, and to, of course, at the end of the day, as a piece of document that goes in as submission for the development approval.
Pretty much a linchpin. You're dealing with the shareholders who own the land, municipalities, and even your own team, and you have to make sure that they're all well coordinated. Very, very interesting. A lot of planning and consultancy, as you've mentioned already, comes before the whole finished product is concerned. What goes behind the scenes to ensure approval? Maybe you can just dwell a little bit more on how to ensure that an approval does take place.
Right. A key component in the municipal approval process, Roberto, is, and it's become very much part of the whole planning process, and it has been for a long time, but it's taken even a more intense emphasis on it, is the community participation. We often make sure that from very early on we consult with staff, with the local councillor and the community. In some instances, we are asked to even, before we apply for a redevelopment of a site or a development of a site, to meet with the community representatives and explain what some of our plans are. We make sure that we are not going in with finished plans. If we have an idea, we just elaborate on it a little bit, but we don't go and say it's a fait accompli. It's very important to make sure that we get the feedback we require. So the current planning process is really a series of feedback loops that we get the feedback from the community, we get the feedback from the councillor, we get the feedback from the municipal planners, designers, and engineers,
Right.
so as to make sure that the product we are proposing
Yes.
is actually a one that has the best chance of support.
Right.
And this is a big part today of the development review and development approval process. So there are some inherent issues with the going back and forth, and is that it adds a certain length of time
Right.
that a lot of people may not realize,
Yes.
and sometimes leads to frustration to say, how come it's taking that long?
Yes.
The realities today of the development are that these feedback loops are indispensable. You have to go through them, otherwise you cannot get what the support you would like, even though you may have a fairly good proposal. It needs to go through the certain processes
Yes.
to get, hopefully, the momentum for approval that you need.
Interesting. I thought earlier on it was just a matter of just submitting a proposal and it's a yes or no. My goodness, there's a lot of things that goes behind the scenes. In your experience, in your decades of experience, what are the most common risks and challenges that real estate developer runs into?
The key piece to consider in today's planning environment, Roberto, is that back in 2005, the province of Ontario brought in a Places to Grow Act, a very courageous and very sustainable, environmentally sustainable plan, which basically directs development to built-up areas as a means of cutting back on the expansion into the green fields.
Right.
A very, as I mentioned, courageous and very a sound policy framework.
Right.
Municipalities are then asked to provide the necessary frameworks of their own, policies and planning documents to support this. So what we are seeing, a significant amount of redevelopment,
Right.
especially in the built-up areas where public transit infrastructure is actually in place or is in the formation stage.
Right.
Whereas all of this is really good news because
Right.
it creates a vibrant, sustainable urban environment, it also has a component of a bit of a pushback from certain community groups saying, hold it, this is going too far, too fast.
Right.
Sometimes very legitimately they say, well, all of this is predicated on the public transit network being in place. Well, it's not here yet.
Right.
So wait.
Right.
Because planning often starts earlier because the development proponents will see an opportunity and then they'll say, oh, an LRT line is going to go there. I'm going to get a
Yes.
piece of property there and I'm going to develop it. And as you may know, municipalities will look at an emerging policy framework and start putting policies in place in anticipation of that. That's not built yet. It may not be built
Right.
for another 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the planning framework is recommending certain things, whereas the actual nuts and bolts are not done. The LRT is not running yet.
Yeah.
So this then creates a bit of a backlash from the community. Representatives in some instances hold it, we don't want it this big, this high,
Right.
this dense.
Right.
So this is a key kind of piece of, in some instances, what creates some of the delays.
Okay.
And those delays can be costly.
Right.
And as I often say, municipal development or development in any environment today in Southern Ontario is not really for the faint of heart,
Right.
because there are delays. You have to really put them into your pro forma.
Yeah.
And understand that it is not going to be a slam dunk. It's going to be going through the processes I mentioned earlier. Now, an important component of the approval process that is also worth discussing right now is that whereas the municipal councils at the municipal level are the last word on saying
Right.
yes or no, or yes with conditions
Right.
to a development proposal, The Ontario government has an agency called the Ontario Municipal Board, also known as OMB,
Yes.
and which is a unique institution in North America. And oftentimes, applications for a development are appealed to this adjudicating body that says, whereas the municipal council said yes, somebody has opposed it, and then we have to now start from the beginning to get everybody to justify why yes and why no. So it becomes another forum outside of the realm of the municipal review process that starts brand new, the whole review process, but in a more condensed format. Community groups can attend, planning consultants like myself can attend, municipal planners, engineers, and so forth attend and give expert evidence. So that adds another dimension to the Ontario kind of setting of planning and development approvals.
Right. Intensification's making your life interesting. Lots of challenges, lots of changes. And I would gather your days are always exciting and interesting. One last question I'd like to ask you, Moiz, is for possible investors. What are key and important considerations, especially for somebody or a group contemplating to go into real estate development?
Right. A key piece, Roberto, is for a development proponent, with our help in many instances, of course, to understand the existing planning policy framework. You have a piece of property. What determines what can go in there is that planning policy framework. And that means, what does the official plan say?
Right.
What does the zoning bylaw say? What are some of the guidelines?
So you can't just say, I
applicable?
want something, this one, I want it built there. We have to work on the framework, like you
Right,
mentioned. Yeah.
yes, because you either go with the framework,
Right.
or you ask for a change to the existing policy framework. Let's say you may ask a rezoning, because, for example, it may limit how much retail you can put on a site.
That's right.
You say, well, look, my market indicators are that I can put more retail than what the zoning bylaw currently is saying. And oftentimes, a lot of the developers have to understand as well, and as many do, that the existing zoning framework is often not keeping up with the official plan. An official plan is a higher policy a framework that then says, here is the vision for what should happen. The bylaw oftentimes hasn't caught up to that vision, which is much newer. So as such, knowing that an official plan policy is in place for a development will give the impetus for a development proponent to say, okay, even though the zoning is not kept up with that, I can have a certain level of confidence that they will be supportive of the change to the zoning bylaw. So this is the kind of thing that needs to be kind of put into an analysis of what can I do with that piece of land. Emerging policies are also an important part. In other words, when we're looking at the official plan, when we're looking at the zoning bylaw, they may not have the same kind of detail to understand what is emerging. For example, a new light rapid transit line is going through that area, and the official plan hasn't yet said that, oh yeah, we're going to go and change our policies. It may be in the works, but it's not official plan policy. So at that time, we advise our clients of what is happening, what the timetable is, and then through the discussions with municipal staff, we test the idea that we are anticipating something to happen. So we help our clients understand that we don't just look at what is there, we also look at what will be happening. So these are some of the things that we work on with our clients, and suffice it to say that it is important for a lot of development proponents to understand that there is a significant process that has to be addressed here. Yet things do get built.
That's right.
I mean, I'm very optimistic in that over my 3 or more decades of experience in planning, architecture, and urban design, I have seen the GTA, Southern Ontario, and the environs develop into a much more vibrant, exciting place to be. Even though the process takes longer, I believe the effort at the end of the day is worth it, as long as people understand that the process will take its time.
Right.
And but hopefully the results at the end are good to the developer, to the investor, and also good additions to the urban environment, and create more sustainable, more vibrant communities.
Yeah. Making it a win-win for all parties.
That is our goal always.
Yeah. Moiz, very interesting interview. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise,
Yes.
taking us behind the curtains on what really happens on real estate developments.
Thank you.
In behalf of Real Wealth TV, Roberto Lloren, I hope you enjoyed this episode.